Hey guys, Josh Doyle here, Innisfil Fire Training Officer. Today we're just going to talk about the actual proper handling of contaminated gear once we get back to the station. This is going to build on the contaminated PPE policy that we released last week, as well as it works in conjunction with the contaminated apparatus. All right. So when we talk about dealing with contaminated gear after a fire, extrication, anything like that, one of the big things that we want to do is that when we start unbagging this gear, we want to make sure we're in our proper PPE. All right. So for this, I'm going to wear nitrile gloves, safety glasses, and an N95. Right. So with that being said, I'm going to put all my PPE on. All right. Again, this is something that you'll have to decide what the level of contamination is with the gear on how much you want to protect yourself. Right. We have supplied all the proper equipment for it, and we're going to go through that. So I put my N95 on. If I get a good seal, hopefully you can hear me still, right? Safety glasses. So, I've got my gear here. I've got my bag gear. This is mine, Josh Doyle. It's bagged from today, July 31st, and it's just gear that was dirty from an actual house fire, right? So, we'll go through the whole thing. The big thing is that when we open the bag up, we want to give it about 2 minutes off gas, all right? That being said, you want to do it hopefully in a well-ventilated area. If you need to, you can go outside the bays and you can do it. It's obviously weather dependent, all right? So, N95 on here, right? Okay. Open the bag up, all right? I want to let that off gas a bit, right? So, same as coming out of a structure fire, right? Give it about 2 minutes off gas, right? Well, while we're letting that off gas, what we can do too is we can start stripping our helmet apart. Here, what you want to do is you want to take all the liners off of your helmet, all right? So, that means taking all the ear flaps off of it, right? The hood around it. As well as if you were in a fire and there was a lot of heavy contamination, you want to make sure that you take the forehead cover off of your helmet, because you do get a lot of contact, obviously, with your forehead, and that can drive some of the particulates into your skin, right? Big thing, this helmet should be washed with warm water and soap, right? Get that cleaned up and then get that back in service, all right? So, as well, we talk about gloves, all right? Since we're letting that off gas a bit longer here. The gloves we use here are the Protex for some of the people that have the older version, all right? They're more of a cloth style, and now we've gone to the Firecraft Phoenix, all right? As per the manufacturer's instructions, the way these are to be washed is that they should be put on just like a regular glove. You're going to wet them with water, put mild soap on them, which we have almost dish soap here, right? And then what you're going to do is obviously you're going to run them under cold water, which we'll show you afterwards, and you're going to wear them just like you normally would. You're going to wet them and put soap on them, and then you're going to lather them up, right? Rinse them off as best you can, get them as clean as possible. If they're heavily soiled, you may require a new pair, or we can put them in the extractor, but it's recommended to not put them in the extractor because the spin cycle actually pulls the liners out of them. All right? If you're not sure as well, throughout the process we have a step-by-step flow chart. In this binder that is with the extractor with all the MSDS documents for all the chemicals, as well as it's taped on the top of the machine. All right? So now I'm going to go ahead and start separating the gear here, right? So, I'm going to pull my coat out, right? I'm going to pull my pants out here. I've got a set of gloves I was wearing that are really dirty, right? Over there. And my balaclava, right? So, with that being said, we want to put the balaclava in one pile, the gloves, and the outer liners. If you're going to wash them, go together. Make sure you're separating the gear, right? Under the health and safety and under NFPA, you're supposed to be separating these prior to washing them, all right? So, one liner out. So, inner liners, right? Outer liners. One good rule of thumb too is that you should be clipping all the clips and Velcro back up so that when you wash it, it's not going to ruin the Velcro tabs and everything on those pants, all right? So, pair of pants. Sometimes these sleeves can be a bit of a pain to get out. On this model here, I think I have to pull it out and then take the clips off, see? That's set. Now, if you have a DRD, you should take it out when you wash it. If it's really dirty with the outer liner, you can wash it, but this should get washed with the inner liners if you're going to do it, okay? So, I've got my inner liners and my balaclava. I've got my pieces for my helmet liner here. Are going to go with the outers because these are generally exposed to the contaminants in the outlet. Okay guys, so now we've broken down all the gear out on the bay floor. We've let it ventilate, all right? So what we've done now is we've brought it into the extractor room here at Station 2. You'll see some pictures that are getting uploaded in the video. It's going to show the station with all the gloves, the N95s. If there's any question about some of the contaminants on your gear, we can send the gear out. It's not a problem. Just make sure that you let your officer know, and the officer can let either one of the deputies or training division know when we get that sorted out, all right? So with our new Continental extractor we have now, there's only 3 programs on the machine, which you'll see pictures of. We have program 1, which is it's an outer shell heavy soil. So obviously heavy contaminants, right? A lot of soot, carcinogens from fire, stuff like that. And that's going to be all of your outer shells, obviously, right? Program 2, that's outer medium soil. So obviously, if it's not heavily contaminated, you can kind of put it in for the outer shells, as well as you can do coveralls in that as well. The last one is program 3, which is liners only. Need to be inside out, and your balaclavas, especially the new style with the moisture gray in them. All the new Innotex style, we need to make sure that those go in on program 3. The idea with that is that we don't want to spin and we don't want to put too much water in it because they already have a moisture liner in them. We actually can't wring those out, right? We actually have to just tumble them, okay? So when I go to put the gear in the dryer, let's do the insides first. So inside out, that's the idea, okay? So they're going to go in the machine here. With these new machines, you can only wash two sets of gear at a time, and that's 2 sets of inners, 2 sets of outers, right? Not 2 full sets, okay? So my balaclava's in there. I'm just going to do my coat now. So I pull the sleeves out on this one here. Inside out. Inside out. So the idea of washing the outers first is generally they take longer to dry. So if you get them going first, when we go to dry them, we can get them hanging out first and get the fan set up. So now they're in here. I'm only doing 1 set at a time. With this machine, I'm going to go to program 3. This machine has a timer, tells you how long it's going through the phases. There's 39 minutes left for this one, as well as this thing here. It'll inject the soap in the proper cycle. So after this cycle's done, we're going to get the outer liner in, and we'll do a video on that as well, and then we'll talk about hanging them up to dry, all right? All right, guys, so while we're waiting for our inner liners to go through this proper cycle, we'll just talk about the proper way to wash gloves, right? If you follow the manufacturer's recommendations, right, especially for the Pro-Tex, we found that when we wash them in the machine, the actual liners pull out of the fingers, and then they're usually garbage after that. So we want cold water, all right? Put the gloves on. If I had someone else here, I'd have them put the soap on my hands for me. But the idea is that you want to wash all the major contaminants off of them. You're going to soap on them, all right? And then you're going to lather the same as you would your regular, just when you're washing your hands, all right? So, get everything off as best as we can, right? And wash it off, right? Obviously, after we've done washing the gloves and everything, we want to make sure that the sink's clean, so we want to use our nitrile gloves and maybe a SOS or something. Just make sure that this area isn't contaminated from a fire scene, right? So those are done. Now, one thing that they do recommend with these gloves, and we're all guilty of it usually, is you don't want to start just wringing them out, right? The idea is that if you start twisting them really, really hard, you actually start tearing the stitching in them, right? So just give them a quick little squeeze, right? Get most of the excess water out on both of them. And then we're going to find a rack and we're going to hang them up. We're going to have those just dry as we normally would, all right? Okay guys, so obviously we're while we're waiting for that set of inner liners to wash right now. We've talked about how to wash the gloves properly, and obviously that's going to be a bit of a cycle. So I just want to talk about gloves and boots, right? Obviously, if you need to be back in service as soon as you can, you're going to have a second set of gear. For the volunteers, they're going to pick it up from Station 2 through the captains. If you have time to wash your gear, one thing that we can do is obviously get some warm soapy water here, right? It's nothing fancy, it's just a dish soap, right? And you want to try and clean most of the contaminants off as possible, right? Obviously, after you've seen, we should try and do a gross decon or copious amounts of water to get most of the contaminants off, but this is just kind of a final cleaner, right? So we'll give those a quick little scrub, right? Okay. Obviously, if you need to wear a N95 mask, you can do so, or tie AVAC suit, all depending on the level of exposure, right? Helmets, one of those things, right? The key is just get the majority of stuff off them, right? Because we don't want to be carrying that around day to day, right? So once I've got that kind of cleaned off, once I've got the majority of stuff off, I want to check, make sure everything looks pretty good in there. Looks clean, all right? Now I'm going to rinse these off, hang them up to dry, and they should be good to go, all right? Okay guys, so first load of the inner liners is all complete. They've been hung out on the bay floor to dry now. We've washed our helmet, our boots, they're just out drying. So now we're just going to put the outer shells in, right? So pants, coat, and then I've got the liners for my helmet as well, right? So they go in the machine here. Obviously this isn't soiled too badly, so when I close it up, I'm going to put it on program number 2, which is just medium soil, right? So close the door. Program 2, press on, 38 minutes, this should be done, all right? So we'll just have a quick look after this is done. We'll show you how we're hanging up to dry with the fans, and that'll be it, all right? Okay guys, so now we've gone over all the decon processes with washing the gear, separating the gear, stuff like that. The next step is going to be hang the gear to dry. So again, it comes out in the inner and outer shells. Firefighter Forbes here is going to hang it up on the gear racks. Again, these gear racks are in all the stations, so the fact is that everyone should have access to this. So you can hang your gear up. Right, generally the inners are going to go up first because they're going to be the most wet because they hold a lot of the water. So it's going to hang them up, right, as much surface area as possible. You can put your gloves and stuff up there too. We are looking at creating some new drying systems. You can put your outers up there too as well if you want. We are looking at building some new dryer racks this summer. That might be a bit more advantageous in the way we use them. But currently this is the process that we have at all the stations, right? So once he gets all of his gear up there, right, make sure you open all the zippers up, get it so as much air is going to pass through as possible. Perfect. And then we have, at all the stations, we do have these large fans that we have, so we can set up the fan either close to an outlet, or if we need to, we can use an extension cord, and we're going to set the fan up to obviously blow air directly on the gear, all right? So this can be set up and let to dry for hours. Right, so once the gear is dry, it goes back in service. If you do need to, once the gear is done, if the crew that is washing the gear, you needed it cleaned, you could put it back together for them, fold up and tape it and put their name on it, or put it back in the cubby for them, all right? So next, the last thing we're going to go over is just how to decon the extractor room after we've done all the washing and drying on all of the gear. Okay, so the last step of this process is that we want to decon the room. So after we've washed all the inner, outers, all the gear that we use at a fire or whatever the exposure was, we want to make sure that we want to wipe down the machine. If we did have a lot of sets of the gear go through this, we want to make sure we wash down the outside of the machine with either a disinfectant cleaner, or we're going to use some of the wipes, right, just to wipe all the buttons and the unit down. Also, a good rule of thumb is try and leave the door open on it, so that that seal dries up. A lot of time, if you leave it closed and there's moisture in there, you actually can damage that. And it's a lot of, you can get a bit of buildup of mildew and stuff on that, right? So the last thing we want to do is we want to make sure we mop the room here. So Firefighter Forbes, the big thing is that he has an outdoor mop, right? All the stations should have mops that are either for indoor use in the living quarters, and ones for outdoor in the bay. So the big thing, we want to use the outdoor ones because this is going to be where all the carcinogenic stuff is, right? So obviously tracking it in and out from the bay floor. So make sure that we mop our way out of here and then let it dry. So that's the last step of the process. Again, questions about it, please feel free to email training division, and I'd be happy to answer them. All right? Thanks so much.